Welcome back to H&D Comedy, the little solo episode with your boy Halfer today. Oh, Davey can't join us. He is doing work duties. Today's guest is Lynn Harris, the founder, CEO of Comedy Gold. Gold Comedy. My apologies. And we're going to have her in and ask her a couple questions. What got her into comedy? What got her started the Gold Comedies? Sit back, enjoy the show, and don't be hating on your boy by himself because he's out here by himself doing the episode solo. Like Han Solo. Also, be sure to go check out our website, hndcomedypodcast.com, for all your cool merch. Go get your cool hats, your shirts, hoodies, bandanas. We have stickers. We have blankets. We got onesies for all you people with your babies out there with your little chitlins and stuff. Make sure you go check out the website, because if you don't go check out the website, then are you even a really an ADHDer? This is H&D Comedy.
Welcome to H&D Comedy Podcast.
Work it, boy.
Get funky, get freaky.
With your host, Hafa and Davey.
Oh, baby. Ooh.
Thanks for tuning in.
So Lynn Harris, thank you for coming on H&D Comedy.
Thank you for having me.
Of course. So before Gold Comedy, before the impact, and what was your very first, like, well, I'm funny. People are laughing,
Yeah.
Oh, I think I can make a living off this,
Okay. Well, the very first thing, I don't know if I thought I could make a living, but I remember being like, okay. And that was when I was like, I don't know, like 6. I coughed or something like that. And my mom said, "Are you okay? You're a little hoarse." And I said, "No, I'm not. I'm a little girl." And then my mom laughed, and after that, I was like, okay, that was, I nailed that. That was a good one. And so it was just like a good feeling, so I didn't leap from there to thinking like, envisioning my Netflix special, but it was fun, and it was, it was good vibes. So I thought I'll keep trying that.
Right. You said you got a Netflix special?
No, I'm saying that back then in, 1976, I wasn't like, soon I'll be on Netflix, just from that one dumb pun. But, but that's the first one I remember, honestly.
Right. Now, you lived in journalism and activism and writing and, doing stand-up and stuff like that. Which one was the one that just like, what did comedy give you that the other worlds didn't? Like, what was that comedy that you were just like?
Question.
Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. I honestly, it's well, let me say one thing and then another thing. The first thing is that I never, fortunately, I never entirely had to choose like just one path on its own, because, for example, when I was a journalist, I spent a lot of, what I was able to kind of develop as my brand was being able to talk about challenging or really like unfunny issues with an appropriate sense of humor. Not using humor as a delivery system to talk about challenging stuff, or even just to punch up when it was necessary. And so I definitely, so it was never like, I never really had to be like, I have to choose now. I have to be a serious journalist or a funny stand-up. And I also did a lot of kind of stuff in between where I can go into this later, but I did a lot of creative projects, campaigns, brand building that were driven by humor, but designed to drive some sort of social change. So, but that's my having said all that, since you asked, there's really no substitute for a live audience. There just isn't, just, and that's true. Even like for me, just, I love dinner parties, it's the same thing, it's just that, I always need to like recharge and reset in between things. I don't always need to be with people, but there's no replacement for me, for that live vibe, energy, feedback. And it's not just performing, it's going back and forth. It's also being entertained. It's also like it's not just like, oh, they love me. It's the feeling of the back and forth.
Right.
And I don't even mean like I know comics is kind of pretentious, but comics said like it's a conversation. And it's not really, because you don't really want them to talk to you. But like the feeling that you're really engaging with comics and engaging with the audience. Oh, here's my cat. I hope no one's allergic.
Kitten.
The feeling that you're really engaging, not just doing a monologue.
Right.
Is really so it's that sizzle,
Right. Yeah. I got a question for later on, but I'll just go ahead and ask it now. Is would you rather bomb or for the crowd to be quiet?
Oh, yeah. I know. It's said that's like the eternal question, right?
Yeah.
I mean, in a sense, it's the same.
Yeah, that's true.
Right.
That's true.
I mean, unless you're lucky or not lucky, but unless you've got like the crowd that's quiet because they're thinking that's very funny.
Yeah.
Like you don't want that.
Thinking they're like, oh, that's hilarious. Because I do that sometimes. I'll go, and it's like I think it's funny, but I'm just like,
mm-hmm. Yeah,
like,
exactly. The nod. Yeah. I guess I'd rather. I mean, really though, I guess maybe what you're asking is, would you rather when you're talking about bombing, you're talking about really like just getting like people
almost like a boo.
God forbid heckling, but what'd you say?
Like a boo, like they're like, boo,
sure.
Get off the stage.
Exactly. Like, honestly, I'd rather quiet than that, honestly. Yeah. Because at least you can try to at least like rub two sticks together and get something going if they're quiet. Whereas if there's no way to come back from.
Well, if I was telling a joke and it got real quiet, I'd be like, oh, it's just like my 6th birthday party. It's all quiet.
Right. That's a whole nother topic. Right.
Is anybody out there?
I know.
Yeah.
Oh no. But that's funny, because then that makes me curious, and then now I'm paying attention, so that's a good one.
Yeah. I tell David all the time, I'm like, I listen to Mike Lucas. He's a stand-up comedian out of Dallas, and he has his podcast that he gives like tips and tricks on and stuff, how to like punch up instead of down, kind of thing. And I always told David, I'm like, to have a joke, you got to have a joke for the joke and then a joke for that joke, or kind of thing, like a backup joke.
Yeah.
Kind of like you say a joke, and then depending on how the crowd reacts, you can go this way or you could go this way.
Yeah.
And if you go that way and they don't like it, well, you better hope you have something that can fix that. If not,
it's like you need like a joke, it's almost like a joke sandwich bar, or a salad bar. You need to be able to kind of move. You can move toward, okay, that went well. I can move toward the crunchy toppings, or like, got to move back toward the, we're starting over with spinach instead of romaine or whatever it is.
Yeah, I forgot the lettuce. Dang it.
Exactly.
Right. Now, was there ever a time where you just felt like you're like, oh, I got to stop comedy? Like maybe this isn't what I want to do? Or, I mean, you said at 6 years old, you kind of had that like, oh, I got it moment, but like, was there ever a time you're just like,
I never decided to stop. I just kind of did it less and less, because there was no one time where I'm like, this sucks, I can't do this anymore. But what did happen was I just realized that I wasn't going to be able to stay up so late anymore. And I realized that, and I wasn't that old when I was in my young 30s. It wasn't like when I stopped. Because I did it for like 10 years, starting in my early 20s. And I mean stand-up. So like when I stopped doing stand-up, I just kind of realized one day, like, wow, I haven't really done a set in a while. It wasn't like a firm decision, but the difference for me was that, and I was fortunate, the difference for me was that I was still doing all the other stuff that was comedy adjacent, so it felt like, okay, I'm not doing one of the comedy type things I do right now. but it doesn't mean that I have like forsworn jokes, like,
Right.
I actually wound up kind of pivoting more into storytelling anyway. Because first of all, I like it and I feel good doing it, and it's less, and that's something you can do and I mean funny storytelling, but that's something you can do. You can always have a few stories in your back pocket in a way that you cannot just always randomly do stand up. You know this, like you can't just be like, oh, 10 years later I'll just go do a set. Like, it requires, being on stage all the time and working stuff out, this. So storytelling, I find that you can be lazier. You have to work equally hard at the writing, but you can be lazier about, it's not a lazier art form. It just means that it just requires less time, actually standing on stage, polishing, working out, tweaking. Your story, I mean, my stories would have been better if I spent more time polishing and tweaking. It's not that, but it's doable.
Right,
it's
right.
doable. And I actually love storytelling a little, even when I was still doing stand up. I was basically just doing like 10 minutes on one topic. It wasn't official. It wasn't like really storytelling like The Moth, but it was more like sort of a set piece. And that was kind of just easier for me. It was just natural, it came more naturally to me than chunks of jokes.
Right. I do like that. I like the storytelling more, because there's some stand-ups that'll be like joke, 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 and it's like, whoa, 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 dude, I'm still trying to process the first joke. Why are you on 60?
Right. And I don't think it's a worse form. It's just that's my style. Like it's just my personal preference. Because there are stand-ups who just do jokety, 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 joke, and they're brilliant. But there's something so like, there's something even more just like relaxing about the storytelling style. I mean, that people ask us all the time, because at my company, we teach stand-up and we teach storytelling, and I hope my cat isn't driving you crazy here.
No, I got 4 running around on here too.
So. But like people ask us a lot, what's the difference between, like, where's the slider? What's the difference between storytelling that is funny and stand-up that is storytelling? And I always think that's so interesting to explore, because to me, it's so clearly hugely different. And I've done both, and they're very, very different. And, people, what I have learned from the wisdom of those who have gone before me is, that the key differences are the key differences that I've learned. One is obviously a very clear beginning, middle, and an end. You don't really have to do that if you're doing storytelling style stand-up. But in terms of a narrative, the other one I thought was that I now teach people and tell people all the time is, a story in stand-up can be like a random thing that happened to you that was funny and told well. Whereas a story that you're telling a story about, it's really a story. It can't just be a thing that happened to you. It has to be what you did about it. Like, and a choice that you made and kind of how it changed you, and so that's what I've, again, learned from my elders. And so, have passed on, but that's what to me, the latter kind is even more satisfying for me when you really bring them along, on kind of a journey, if you will, a journey.
Yeah. Come with me on this journey.
Exactly.
Yeah, that's amazing. Now, what was the exact moment? We're gonna come back to cold comedy. What was the exact moment you said, "Screw it, I'm building cold comedy"?
Well, that's a great question. Okay, let me just think if there was a moment. I do remember standing on a street corner, talking to
telling jokes.
Yes, telling jokes. Just like, hey, comedy tonight, handing out flyers. No, I know there were 2 moments. There was one when I was having lunch or dinner with an old friend of mine from journalism years and years and years ago. And we were like, wouldn't it be cool if we could just have a school that would teach specifically teen girls that they're already funny and how to be even funnier and just how to be like loud and just like take no shit and just be and don't and like 'cause to us we were thinking about the way to sort of it doesn't happen to everyone, but there is a turning or culture creates this turning point where girls go from being like scrappy and not caring, and to being like hello, like either being told to be prim and proper or worrying about what everyone else thinks of them, and that. And we were like, wouldn't it be kind of like back of a napkin, like made up an entire company that would be like, okay, we're going to do this and it will change. And then teen girls will take over the world and it will be great. And we were like, yeah, we should totally do that. And of course we didn't do it, right? For a year, we were just like, we're totally doing this. We're going to meet again. Same time next week. We're totally doing this. And then we got busy, we were busy. And then I was, it was like 10 years later. And I always had it in the back of my mind that like, I think I solved patriarchy. Like, I think we could do this. And I was I had a job that I liked, but I was where I got to do these cool humor driven campaigns. Like we had animations shown at NASCAR races that were like about domestic violence that were like funny, but not funny, like it was a big deal. It was really cool. This kind of pop culture campaigns that we were able to do, but I was kind of getting ready to leave that job. And I was kind of thinking like, but what will I do next? And then I thought, oh yeah, that thing I never did. I'm going to give it a whirl. And so for a minute, I was designing. The first thing we did was actually the first online comedy class designed for teen girls. And if you ask me, how did you design it for teen girls? Like, how do you teach teen girls comedy? The answer is you teach them comedy. Like, there's no difference. Except that you don't tell dumbass sexist jokes in their examples, So you teach them comedy. And so we had this, and we still have bits and pieces of it, but we developed we still have the whole thing. We developed and started selling an online comedy class, stand up for girls, basically. And it did well. And then I then started realizing that actually, we have why limit it to teen girls, basically, was what I started thinking. Because also like grownups were like, can I take your class? And I was like, yeah, of course. And so I didn't tell you a moment, but there was a moment on the street corner when I was standing talking to a work friend, where I was like, I think I'm gonna kind of wrap it up at this place. Like, I think it's time for me to move on. And I was like, and do you know what I think I'm gonna do? I think I'm going to do this thing with like comedy, women. And he was like, you should do that. I remember we were on the southeast corner of 43rd Street and 6th Avenue. Southeast corner of 43rd and 5th in Manhattan. And I was like, okay, I'm going to do it. I guess I'm doing it. So that was that. But then, so it started as the first online class for teen girls. And then it evolved into being, certainly for women, non-binary folks, others, but really for anybody who just who wants to learn, who wants to, build their comedy careers with as little bro vibe as possible. Right. We can't promise you no bro vibe out in the world, but we can promise you bro vibe in our professional network, in our community, on all of our sets. We make our own content also. So we just want to, comedy's hard for everyone, right? Yeah. Like, it's hard for everyone, but we want to make it easier for the people for whom it's honestly still the hardest. So, yeah.
I really think women in comedy now are actually coming up more. Like, what's her name? Kate McCannon on Saturday Night Live, oh my gosh, she cracks me up.
She's unbelievable. Like, she can just walk into a room and not do anything, and she's hilarious. I don't know how she does it.
That's how, whenever I was growing up, every time we go to little family events, me and my brother always had this one cousin. We could just walk in and be like, butter. And she'd just be like, and just start laughing. And it's like, yep. What? That's when I was like, maybe I was like, maybe I'm a comedian. Maybe I should do this stuff.
Yeah, exactly.
I have yet to go up on a stage, though. That's my problem. But I plan on going on one December 5th, actually, in Dallas.
Okay.
Yeah, it's that Mike Lucas. He puts on Mike's to Mayhem, and he has 3 comedians come up and they tell a story. and then these improvers will go and take bits out of that person's story and then make, scenes out of it and stuff. So I was going to go up there and because I'm half Mexican and half white. That's why my nickname is Halfa. And I was going to go up and tell them a little, joke that kind of like it's a story about my life, but it's also funny,
Yeah,
so that's
absolutely.
I love that. But
that's great.
What's the most unexpected person you've seen walk into Gold Comedy and they were like they were just like, oh, I'm not funny, but then they went up on stage and just murdered?
Oh yeah, I see what you're saying. Okay. Yeah, we had a few people. We had a woman named Jean who showed up because she was actually working on her PhD or dissertation or something, and she was having trouble getting research subjects, and she thought, well, that's because my whole proposal is boring. It was she was getting an advanced psychology degree, and she was like, why does it have to be boring? And so she really didn't even come to us to start doing stand-up. She just thought, well, I'll just be around funny people and I'll figure out how to just make my work more appealing and less boring to people so I can actually finish my dissertation. And she started doing, and she was an artist also, and she started doing the randomest, funniest stand-up with her, and it was during the pandemic, so she would always be like, she would like do her art and like narrate what she was doing, or she would show us her art and talk about it. And she was a little older and she was kind of salty. And we were like, Jean, have you forgotten about your dissertation? Because we think you're doing stand-up now. Like, she was so, and not just like funny because she was really very extremely smart and witty. It wasn't just that she was like the wacky old lady's doing comedy. Like, it wasn't that. She was just really witty and just really took to it. And so she was, that's why I always think and not everyone who comes to us is, by far, not everyone who comes to us is a beginner, like she was, but I really do believe that just getting around the right people, in the right space where they can kind of reflect yourself. She didn't change who she was to start doing stand-up. She just did what she thought was funny and did and talked about herself in ways that were authentic. And we just, helped her learn joke structure, but she brought it, and she didn't plan on it at all. And
she just went and told the story, and it just happened to be really funny.
Went for it, yeah. Just talking about stuff that was already important to her and that was already part of her life. She was great. We also have someone. This is not an unexpected story; it's just a great story. She came to us. Her name is Rocky. She lives in North Carolina. She came to us saying, or the way she tells it, she said, I know I'm funny. I just don't know what to do with it. I don't know how. And she had already been she was a retired high school art teacher, a grandmother, also taking care of an adult son with special needs, and also been a volunteer firefighter. She's a badass.
Holy.
And she just walked in and blew us away. And she came in and she was just like, but I don't know how to do stand up so I came to you guys to teach me how. And we were like, girl, you
want to teach us?
Yeah. She was such a natural. And, but she also, and let me be clear about this, worked her butt off for the last 3 years. She took our stand-up boot camp class. I think she holds the record for taking it 10 times. She took it. She also is now a substitute teacher for it when the instructor can't do it. So she is teaching it. But she worked and is now doing stand-up around the South. She is on a sketch team and writing for a sketch team near where she lives. And I finally just met her because she came up to do her first half hour as part of a solo show festival in New York City. And now she's doing it. I mean, she's doing it for real. It's not a hobby. She's doing it. So, she does have the raw talent, but she wouldn't have accomplished what she accomplished without the hard work that she put in. So
Right.
she's really special. We love her.
Okay, so with that being said, do you think comedy is taught or unlocked?
Mm. Ooh, no one's ever. People ask me that question all the time, but you asked it the best. No one ever put it that way before.
This is my first rodeo.
Yeah. I think this is a cop out, but I think it's both because because look, there are always going to be people who have, who bring more to the table at first, right? They're always just like, people who are better cooks than others, right? People who are whatever, like better drivers, I don't know, right? Who are just better at, like, I don't know, decorating their house, whatever it is, right? But it's like I was saying about Rocky, like she could have been the funniest person in the room for her entire life, and she would have been. So it's the work that she put in that allowed her to actually meet her comedy goals and to get good at comedy. So it's the difference between being funny and being good at comedy. And I think plenty of people who are funny will never be good at comedy because they're not going to put in the work.
You ain't got to call me out
people,
like that, okay?
Yeah, no. And there are plenty of people who are, I think, not as funny. Shocker or hot take, I don't think Seinfeld is that funny, but respect. I mean, no one worked harder, famously. I don't know if no one worked harder, but I mean, he was famous for his work ethic. And I think he really learned how to do it. And he got really good at that job. It's just not my personal style, but he is really good at his job. And you can't do that with just raw talent. You can't.
Right. So do you think comedy actually changes people's minds, or do you think it just confirms what they already believe?
I love this question too. I think, when, I don't know if you've ever like worked on a political campaign or volunteered for one, but what they tell you is, like, the people that we're going for, like if you're making calls for making calls for whatever election or knocking doors, whatever it is, they don't have you go to the people who are already decided, who are already, voting for the other person. You're just not going to, like, you're not bothering. You're not there to change minds. You're there to talk to the people who are already primed, to make sure you get out the vote, or maybe they're on the fence, but they're primed. They're going to have an open mind. Right. And so I think so. On the one hand, I don't think you could walk into a room and, like, just with some jokes, make someone be like, you know what? I was anti-abortion, but now I'm super pro-choice. Like, I just don't think you're going to do that with some jokes. Yeah. Or I was, anti-immigration, and now I'm not. Like, I just don't think that's going to happen. However, but that's not a failure of comedy. I just don't think it's just not in the same way that political campaigns don't do it. It's just not how it works. People have to be, however, I do think, and I feel very strongly about this, I do think that comedy does shift perceptions. Absolutely, like 100%, especially because it's such a nice and easy, like, delivery system for things that might otherwise be challenging. Like, I don't know why this example popped into my head, but it's actually a friend of mine. I don't know if you know the actor and comic Asif Manvi. He was on. He's on a million things, but in any case, he was on a show an obscure show a long time ago called Halal in the Family, and it was basically it was about Pakistani American immigrant or Pakistani immigrants, and it was but just being regular, like, right. They were just being regular, and it was sort of about how they were Pakistani, but it was also how, like, living their lives and going to a job and going to school, and like the point of the show, without being like lecture-y, was to normalize just, like, people that, like, brown people are not that different, like, everybody calm down,
we're all the same. We're all the same.
Right. So, and so that kind of thing, I think, absolutely can get under your skin. Like, it won't change, like, a hardcore race. Like, a hardcore racist won't watch half an hour of Asif's show and be like, I've seen the light, right? Yeah. But, like, it gets under your skin. It starts to shift your perceptions. I really think it can. And also, I think I really do believe that, like, let's say you go to a comedy show in New York City and you're lucky enough that it's pretty diverse, right? Let's say let's say you're not from here, New York, and let's say you don't, let's say you come from a pretty white place, no shade, but let's say, right? And let's say you go to a comedy show and you see a pretty diverse show. Bunch of women, people of color, maybe someone trans, maybe someone gay, like just a pretty diverse show. That's like I don't mean to be condescending, but like that might be the only time that you've like had a kind of a social contract where you sit and listen to a person who is not like you for 10 minutes. Like it might not have happened, if it just, and that's not your fault. Like it might just, and so like, if just the exposure and those comics don't even have to be telling political jokes, right? Really comics are all talking about that. We're all just talking about like our families and, like we're all kind of talking about the same thing anyway. Yeah. Right. And they could just be talking about their like just anything. It doesn't have to be political. And the experience of having to listen to someone different from you in a way that is actually like pleasant and fun, so you're not being lectured at, is, I think, really powerful.
Right.
And so I do think, it won't make someone do a 180, but I do think the more and more people are exposed to, never mind perspectives and experiences that are different from theirs, but like literal faces that are different from theirs, it really starts to move us like as a whole it can help move us toward what we call culture change. Like I really believe it. I really believe it.
Yeah. I feel like when you walk into a comedy club, it's like it doesn't matter what race, what, religion, whatever you are. As soon as you walk into a comedy club, it's like it all just kind of just goes away. You're a human being. You're a human being. I'm a human. You want to hear my struggles and stories? Well, I'll tell you them, but it might make you laugh or might make you go, "Oh wow, I'd never thought about that." Huh?
Yes.
I love that when you hear a comedian tell, like, especially when they're telling a story joke, and then they get to the end and you're like, whoa, dude, I didn't think about that. And then like it does change your perspective on life a little bit or whatever, I love that, 100%. I love learning new stuff every day kind of thing.
Yep. Absolutely. Yeah. Love that. I even this is not the same thing, but it just popped into my head. I went to this great show. We live near a really tiny but excellent club called Union Hall. And we went to this show where there were 3 different comedians. You can watch it on YouTube. In fact, you can see me because this is such a small club. You can see me in the front row. It was Christy Cello, Sydney Washington, and Bob the Drag Queen, 3 of my favorite comedians. And the name of the show was The Dead Moms Club. And then the subtitle was, "We promise it'll be funny. It'll be funny, we promise." Because they were all talking about having lost their moms. Right. And they were all so different. Like they all had the same exact assignment, which was to talk about losing their moms. And they all could not have been more different. And they all, sort of stand-up storytelling-ish, but, you just left with like, even if you could relate, because I also have lost my mom, I could relate completely, but also it was also utterly unlike my own experience. So I also like learned something, even though we had a shared experience, we also had totally unshared experiences, and that made it even better,
Yeah. My mom was recently diagnosed with cancer, and
sorry.
Thank you. I wrote a joke about being half Mexican and half white, and then I included that part into it. And, I told my parents the other day the joke or whatever, and my mom was just like, "Oh my God." And I was like, "It's funny though, right?" And she's like, "Yeah, but God, like that just happened." And I'm like, "I know, but you're the reason why." Like they used to watch like the original Kings of Comedy and Queens of Comedy, Steve Harvey and all them. And I used to watch that growing up, and then Chris Rock, and like, I'd watch Adam Sandler movies. So like I told her, I was like, all this comedicness from me is from y'all. Y'all made this, So was there ever a joke that you were like afraid to tell, but ended up becoming one of your most important jokes?
No, that's a good question. I probably would have had a good answer for you like 10 years ago.
You want me to come back in 10 years?
Yeah, actually, but you know what's funny? I recently I have so many of my sets on like VHS tape, because that's how we did things. We had to make an oil painting.
Hey, I got a VHS player. Can I borrow one so I can watch it?
Yeah, no kidding. And so I recently, I've been like cleaning out our basement. I have boxes and boxes of these tapes. So I basically like hired my own college kid, my kid, to start to do digital transfers. And I just, and so of course, you know, I'd be like, I'm not watching, I'll watch later. But of course, I found myself like being like drawn over to like, you know, watch myself and be like, what did I talk about? And I am not really going anywhere with this. I was just trying to remember, like, I completely surprised myself with with my closer that I did all the time, that I literally forgot about it, like 100%. Like like watching myself, I actually cracked myself up because I did not remember the punchline at all. And I was like, oh, that was pretty good. But I think, but to better answer your question, I don't know if there's anything that I was hesitant to talk about, but I do. You'd be surprised, maybe, at how much things have changed with regard to, like, I was mostly single when I was doing comedy. And I talked a lot about, not so much complaining about being single itself, but I talked a lot about, the ways that women are made to feel bad either way. Like, if we're single, and we don't care, then they think something's wrong with us. And if we're single and would like to not be single, they think we're desperate. Like, there's no middle ground.
Yeah.
So but I wasn't, so that was like a thing that I like took on as an issue, which is like kind of a real issue. But I wasn't, I definitely like, I definitely had people disagree with me, you know, not everyone's your crowd, you know. But I also, as every woman comic has had, I also had people come up and be like, you know, I didn't think I liked female comics, but you're actually pretty funny. And I'd be like, okay, thanks. Which actually is great. I mean, do you know what though? That's good, but that's really not the worst. I mean, it's so dumb. But on the other hand, it's not the worst.
It could be like, hey, we know you're a comedian. I don't know anything about you, but my wife or husband says you're funny. Can I get a picture? Kind of thing.
Right.
Like,
but like,
I guess.
Thanks, I guess. But like, it actually isn't the worst. It's really knuckleheaded, but at the same time, it's kind of the thing we were saying before, where, well, you just said it kind of awkwardly, but actually, I just kind of changed your perception a little bit, didn't I? Like, you kind of said it in a doofy way, but I'll take it. You know,
Yeah, it works. It works. It works.
Yeah. Yep. So, but I don't remember being scared to, you know, I didn't really take any big risks. So let's put it that way.
Right. Now, my next question is going to be kind of like business industry wise. What's the biggest thing young comedians completely must understand about the business?
Oh, the entire business, or just like succeeding as a stand-up themselves?
I'd say more like, what do they? Because like a lot of comedians probably think, "Oh, I'm funny. I can just hop up on the stage," and then they get up there, and then all of a sudden it's like, you got this bright light in front of you, and you got 5 random people looking at you in front that you've never met before, and they're just like, "Be funny."
Yep. That is pretty much what it is. No, I think that's what I mean. Yeah, I thought that's what you meant, and what I mean is, here's one thing that hasn't changed, and we've talked about this a little bit, that you have to put in the reps. I don't care how funny they say you are. I don't care how funny you are. I don't care, you know, how much you crack everyone else up when you walk in a room. But you have to put in the reps, because it's, I mean, you know this, but this is what I would say to everyone. But a great thing about putting in the reps is, like, not all shows are going to be great. Like, you're going to go to some, you know, terrible mics. You're going to go to some great, you're going to kill one night. You're going to tank the next night. You're going to be okay most of the time. And to always be on the one hand, you have to listen for how the audience responds and adjust accordingly, sure. But on the other hand, it's your jokes, it's up to you to learn what to do. And the great thing about just doing it as much as possible, specifically stand up, is that like one bad night doesn't ruin your life, because if you're on stage like 4 nights a week, 5 nights a week, okay, if one isn't so great, then the large majority of them are. And that's just how it is. And it's how you develop a thicker skin. It's how you take it in stride and actually learn to bring the crowd back. Like you can learn to play guitar on YouTube, by watching, you can learn piano on YouTube, but you can't learn stand up without you can do it on Zoom. You absolutely can, but without other people watching you and giving you some sort of feedback. You have to work at it. But there's rewards to that too.
Exactly. Yeah. Like anytime I go anywhere, grocery store, bank, anywhere like that, whoever I'm talking to, I always try to get them laughing. First off, it's like, hey, how's it going? And see how their day is. If they're like, it's good or whatever, I'll be like, oh, and then I kind of like look around them and see what their interests are. Try to talk about that a little bit, I remember one time I went to a hotel and I was checking in and the lady had a little Harry Potter glasses with just a little lightning above it. And I was like, oh my God, I love your Harry Potter tattoo. And she's like, you're the first person that has noticed that and realized that that's Harry Potter. And I was like, I love Harry Potter. And then just for 10 minutes, we talked about nothing but Harry Potter and she's laughing. Yep. Oh yeah, have a great day. Thank you. And I love that interaction with people when they go from just being all great, it's Monday to, hey, yeah, it's Monday. It's not that bad, Got 4 more days to Friday.
And that is actually not nothing, because we have a class on hosting and which is its own special thing that needs to be learned and practiced itself, separate from stand-up or, on top of stand-up. And I happen to know that the homework for the first week of class is to go and talk to people that you don't know, and do exactly that. But specifically pick up on something about them, pick up on a tattoo, pick up on their plant, whatever it is, and chit chat with them. And it's not about trying to be funny. Of course it can be funny, but it's not about trying to be funny, Give
me your laughs. Give me them.
Right. It's just about chit-chatting and listening for where the joke might be, and if it's not, then you just had a nice conversation. Who cares? And that's how you learn to host. It's how you learn to do crowd work. It's how you learn to just be comfortable and be patient with the back and forth that doesn't have to have a payoff, So yeah, that's that's exactly what you mentioned is literally the homework for that class.
I guess I could be a teacher then, huh? Yeah. And like you were talking about bombing and stuff, that's one thing I hope to have soon is I go up on stage and I do bomb, because I've been in construction my whole life, and I look at it as if I'm doing something and I mess it up or whatever, I learn from that. So bombing on stage would be a good way to be okay, maybe I shouldn't say that joke, or maybe I should wait on this time, I just love that feeling. And then if I felt if I went and bombed, I wouldn't be oh man, I suck, I'm going to stop this, never do it again. I'm just going to be okay, well, learn that, let's carry on. Let's go on to the next show.
Yeah. And that is what is called a growth mindset. It actually is. So yeah, totally. It doesn't mean you're not made of wood. It doesn't mean it's fun, to not have a good night, but you're right. The only thing you can do is learn from it. Or you can decide that you know what? I just think that crowd was off. I'm going to try that joke another time. I'm going to try that bit another, because you never know. You have to do it a bunch of times to figure out, was it them or is it me? Or,
depending on if you're the first one going up or the last one going up, because you got to
totally.
Yeah, you got to go off of the other comedians, especially if you're last. The first guy comes up and he's raunchy as hell, and the next dude's clean, and then it's they're well, what are you going to be? And it's
Exactly. It's always the previous vibe is always part of the deal. Totally.
Right.
Totally. Or if you have the check spot, the dreaded check spot or whatever, so yeah, you always have to kind of, if you believe in, if something still cracks you up, you got to keep trying it and just, don't give up on it.
Yeah. Right.
Just because of one bad crowd.
Right. I finally got to the point where I'll be somewhere and I'll say something or something will happen and I'm like, man, that's funny. I'll write it down real quick, and try to,
You have
like,
to.
I was in a Dollar General the other day and this guy was throwing a fit because his card it paid for so much of it and he only needed like $4 left and he threw a huge fit about it. So I was like, hey, like I'll pay it. Don't worry about it. We'll pay it. I go and put my stuff up, ringing everything up. I go to swap my card. Well, turns out I'm $4 short. And I was like, well,
Oh no, that's
I
what you
look at the
get.
person behind me and I'm like, hey, you want to give me $4? And they were like, no. But
That's
that
what you
really
get.
happened. It really happened, but I wasn't short $4. He
Okay.
was. He really was. But I
Yeah.
covered for him, and then I was just
Yeah.
like, I got it. And then I was sitting there going, God, I hope my card doesn't decline.
Yeah, exactly.
But
Exactly.
has comedy ever saved you during any really dark chapters in your life?
Yeah. Yeah. I don't want to bring down
Comedy's
the room, but
medicine.
like the short version is, the last 5 years, my husband and I have lost all of our parents. And not always, not always smoothly, and a bunch of other things like that. So I'll spare you the gories. But my husband and I, like, my husband is very funny, and there's like no such thing as too soon with us. Like there might be like on stage, but with us, there's no such thing as too soon.
Right.
And just being able, like, we for sure, like, I don't remember exactly, can't remember all the jokes, but we for sure, like, cracked a dark joke within minutes of everything terrible that has happened in the last 5 years. And it doesn't make the bad thing go away. It doesn't make you like, it doesn't really make you feel better. It just kind of like makes you feel yourself, like this is gross, but when I won't make this a downer, but like when I was with my dad when he died, and peacefully, it was the kind of thing people want it to be. So it was, but then, the funeral home came, and it was a guy and a girl, whatever. And the guy like had like a vest and like a sort of like almost like a waistcoat and like sort of antique glasses and like long hair, and he kept sort of holding my hands very intensely and saying, I am so sorry for your loss. And at one point he sort of was I was sitting down, he was sort of on his knees, and and he was just very like, he was just very like Victorian,
Mhm.
and I remember like having these, like, I remember like I literally, it was one of the worst moments of my life, and I remember a joke forming in my head at the time, and I was like, oh girl, no, it's too soon. And but as he like walked away, I whispered to my husband, I'm pretty sure he's a vampire. And I wasn't like trying to be funny. I wasn't like trying to lighten the mood. It was just like, I
Yeah.
couldn't, it was the only thing. He looked like he'd walked out of like an Anne Rice novel. He looked like he was in Vampire Diaries or what. And because I was like, and it was after dark, so it was entirely possible. It
He's
was like
kissing
9
your hands,
p.m.
biting them. You're like, why are you biting my hands?
I know. And so, but it wasn't like I was trying to be funny. I wasn't trying to
Mhm.
do anything. It's just like what came out of my mouth. And I wouldn't have said it in another situation, but it was just me and my husband, like
Right.
at this horrible moment. And it just came out, and we just laughed. We were like laughing and crying at the same time. And it just, I don't know, it didn't make me happy. But I just think so much of comedy is just like saying what everyone's thinking,
Mm-hmm.
or
Mm-hmm.
what they didn't know they were thinking. And like
Yep.
someone had to say something about this guy. He was a good guy. I'm not saying he was bad at his job. He was just so like he was just very extra, he was just so extra. And it's like, if you don't sit, if you're, it's like almost uncomfortable not to say something because this guy is so obviously extra. There's a joke sitting right there. And if someone doesn't say it, it's like just awkward that someone didn't say it,
Yeah.
So it just sort of
Looking around
normalized the
like
moment.
waiting.
Yeah. So it just sort of like normalized the moment. So Yeah, I remember him so clearly. It was so funny. He looked like Brad Pitt in Interview with the Vampire. The from the Anne Rice. It was like 20 years, like young Brad Pitt 20 years ago. Not quite that handsome, but like that
Yeah.
that very Victorian affected, like
Right. It's funny.
yeah. Anyway, so there you go. There's an example.
I love that. No, I understand because there's a lot of times, in situations when something bad's happening, I say stuff and somebody will laugh, and I'm like, I wasn't even trying to be funny, dude. I was just saying something, or whatever, but like in situations like that, I always try to like lighten the mood up, like I was
Sure.
at a funeral yesterday and
Oh,
I
I'm
sent
sorry.
thank you, but I sent out like this Snapchat, and the little joke that I said was like something like, I shouldn't have smoked so much this morning. How did I end up at a funeral? And everybody was like, oh my God, like, did you really? And I was like, relax, guys, relax. I was like, it's my mom's cousin. I'm a pallbearer. Like, I'm just trying to be funny at the funeral because they put fun in funeral, so.
Yep. It's okay,
But,
everyone.
what does success look like to you now compared to when you started?
Okay, two things. One is, two sort of opposite things. Now it's sort of like less about me because I want my company to be successful, but the point of my company will be successful when our members are successful in their careers. So, that's our ultimate goal, is to just like flood the zone with women and and non-binary folks and all these other creators who are just like, where there aren't enough of us, just like flood the zone and change and just normalize just inclusivity and diversity in comedy, and not just in performers, but in like in power. And so that's success, right? It's success when like no one calls us like women comics, because we're comics. It makes us sound like the regular comics are the dudes and the women are the other ones, the backups, but also for me, like the only downside is that like, I'm like, but I kind of want to take all my own classes and do and do the work also. So I still want to. I don't really have the energy to do stand up, but I still want to continue when I can. I've been getting back to doing more storytelling, working on a pilot. So success for me will also be like, can I do that at the same time? So we'll see. That's extra, but we'll see.
Challenge, yeah, it's a good challenge.
Yeah,
I love that. Now, I have some rapid fire questions for you.
Okay, ready.
And one of them, the first one was bombing and dead silence. Which one? But favorite type of audience: drunks, sober, or chaos?
Sober, because then I can work with them, and they're gonna, they'll start drinking during my set, maybe.
Right.
But
you ask them a question, you can understand them. Not
right. I'll always know what I'm working with.
Right. Okay. Best city for comedy energy:
New York.
Okay.
But I'm biased.
And you're in New York, right?
Yeah.
Okay. The whole background, it was cool watching it go from like daylight to the dark.
I know, right?
That was
Yeah.
really cool.
Yep.
That was amazing.
Yep.
One word to describe your first open mic.
Quiet.
Oh no.
Yeah.
Well, maybe they were just laughing under their breath. They're like,
yeah, or thinking she's funny. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Oh, she's really funny. Maybe I'll laugh at the next joke.
Yep.
What's more dangerous, ego or fear?
Ego.
Okay. And last one, comedy club or alt rooms?
Oh. Okay, controversial opinion, comedy club. Controversial, because I feel like I'm throwing my own people under the bus when I say that. Because I did stand up in the 90s, and there was a huge divide between the clubs and the alt rooms, huge.
Right.
And I worked in both. And I loved both. And I just thought they sort of I thought that they served kind of two kind of different purposes, because the alt rooms, people were doing really interesting stuff that they couldn't do in the clubs. This is not a rapid fire answer, I realize. But I also found that a lot of times in the alt rooms, they'd be like, people would just like come up on stage with nothing. And that was alt. And I'm like, no, that's just nothing, just
Yeah.
please prepare,
Yeah.
And I thought that people also underestimated how funny people were in the mainstream clubs, because I also love old fashioned comedy. Like I love vaudeville, I love like Friars Club roast, like jokey joke, just like jokey jokes, old fashioned sitcoms. I love Lucy, all those things. And so just jokes. And so like, I don't want to stereotype the alt stuff, but like sometimes I would go and I'd be like, can I just have a joke? Oh my God, just stop painting. I want a joke, So, but I love the energy of both. I would feed off the energy of both.
Right.
So respect. But if I had to choose, I would choose the clubs, but mainly because they were better than people thought they were. They weren't just kind of lame and touristy. They were good.
Right. Okay. Now I got 2 last questions for you, and then we'll wrap it up since I don't want to take up any more of your time.
Sure.
If a 17-year-old right now feels invisible, weird, or not built for the industry, what would you tell them?
They're perfect right now. Don't change. What
You
makes
heard it
you
here
weird?
first.
What makes you weird is what makes you funny. You don't have to be more or less of anything in order to do comedy. If you're loud, you don't have to be more quiet. If you're quiet, you don't have to be more loud. If you're confident, you don't like, if you're shy, you don't have to be less shy. Like it's just taking who you are and distilling it into and just learning the mechanics, learning the physics, and getting out there and doing the work. It's who you already are.
I love that answer. That was a great answer. Okay, last one. What do you hope gold comedy creates 10 years from now that doesn't exist today?
Comedy matriarchy, where I hope it creates the idea that it's not at all interesting that women do comedy.
Right. It won't be women comics. It'll just be comics, and it's male, female, non-binary, whatever. Everybody's just a comic.
That would be it.
I love it. Lynn, I appreciate you coming on H&D. If we ever come to New York, we'll definitely have to come and hang out and go do some comedy and stuff.
We even
if you
have
ever
trees,
in Texas.
you see.
Yeah. They have those in New York?
Yep, sure do.
If you ever come to Texas, let me know. I'm trying to get cool with the Dallas Comedy Club and stuff and get stuff going up there and everything. So maybe one time you can come hang out.
Sounds good. It's a plan.
All right, Lynn.
Great.
You have a blessed weekend.
Thank you so much. You too.
Bye now.
Bye-bye.
Thank you for watching H&D Comedy Podcast.
Work it, boy.
Get funky, get freaky.
Be sure to like and subscribe. It really helps us so we can bring you more content.
Oh, baby.